And so to be competitive, generally speaking, Aussie businesses need to lean in pretty hard, right? And so we've always adopted technology quickly. And so that's helped us from a momentum perspective.
Fintech Chatter, the conversations fintech leaders actually listen to. Presented by Tier 1 People, executive search for fintech.
We've also just had exceptionally good product market fit here from a Stripe perspective in serving businesses to accept just base payment.
How has Stripe managed to, one, penetrate the Australian market, two, kind of be here for the long distance as well, and three, get those numbers, because it's just...
So firstly, our mission is to grow the GDP of the internet, right? And so ultimately it should be, how do we accelerate money movement and create revenue opportunities for businesses? Because any time that a dollar is stranded between point A and point B, that dollar can't be spent, can't be used in the economy. But we're never going to run out of things to build, and we still need software developers. Yeah. And so I think actually we're going to find that this spins the flywheel just faster.
Hello and welcome to Fintech Chatter, the show where I connect with fintech leaders to talk about their secrets to success. I'm Dexter Cousins, your host and the founder of Tier 1 People, the executive search firm that's been working with fintech companies like today's guest to find that 1% who redefine what's possible. Today's guest is really special. I'm coming at you from the Stripe tour here in Sydney, and I'm joined by Karl Durrance, who's the Managing Director for Stripe Australia and New Zealand. Karl, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
It's fantastic to have you on. Can't believe it, 370 plus episodes, and it's the first time we've had Stripe on. I am absolutely ashamed.
Hopefully not the last.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. What an amazing event. It's incredible. I've bumped into so many people from the industry who are here, who are, I think, just, curious, interested, engaged, like, by the whole day so far. Tell us a little bit about Stripe Tour, and then we'll talk about Stripe and your role here in Oz.
Yeah, so this is our annual customer conference. We've got just over 2,000 businesses represented today, and we're going through a whole bunch of topics. We educate on our products, but the big focus area this year is discussing the opportunities being presented by the AI economy. Right. And so there's a huge amount of transformation that's happening. And so that's really the draw card for Stripe Tour this year.
Brilliant. There's a lot to talk through about the future, and I think there was about 800 product announcements today.
Well, not quite 800, but yeah.
It felt like that.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the origins of Stripe and Oz, because you've been here for over a decade.
Yeah, 12 years this year.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
Over 1 million customers, I believe. And
we do,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
200 billion in payments transacted through Australian companies.
Yeah, as an aggregate number, and I think that was a number that we talked through last year. But yeah, from a feet on the street and from a servicing domestic use cases, 12 years this year, it's growing at an incredible clip. Historically, we've had a great product market fit in servicing startups and small business. I think the thing that has grown the fastest, though, is extending that proposition through into large business and enterprise. Probably something quite surprising is how fast that's grown. Like when we look back at our decade anniversary, and at Stripe Tour, I announced at that point we had over 500,000 customers. A year later, I announced that we had over 1 million customers, and these are local customers. This isn't global. These are Australia and New Zealand businesses. It kind of gives you an indication of the speed of growth. And then here at Stripe Tour today, I announced that over the last 12 months, we've onboarded 37,000 new businesses a month. Right, so incredible speed in just the amount of businesses that are moving to Stripe right now.
So if I think through, the kind of general advice that a founder here in Australia would get in fintech, the first thing they're told is you've got to think global, you've got to go to the US. Yeah. Really difficult market to crack here, to get that level of traction. How has Stripe managed to, one, penetrate the Australian market, two, kind of be here for the long distance as well, and three, get those numbers? Because it's just, any domestic fintech would be absolutely, they'd be the top dog.
I think there are a few contributors to it. There's the the characteristic that Aussies tend to adopt technology pretty quickly, right? And that's not, Stripe exclusive. Generally speaking, we're further away. We've got a more constrained talent market. And so to be competitive, generally speaking, Aussie businesses need to lean in pretty hard, right? And so we've always adopted technology quickly. And so that's helped us from a momentum perspective. We've also just had exceptionally good product market fit here from a Stripe perspective in serving businesses to accept just base payments, right? And so Australia is a very card-heavy nation in the use of paying for goods and services, and we just happen to be really, really good at that. And so that's kind of worked pretty well as well and driven a lot of growth. And then thirdly, I think because we have this global footprint, we're helping Aussie businesses to reach the rest of the world, right? And so a stat I shared this morning in the keynote is that when we look at the Australian business at Stripe, 23% of the businesses are selling cross-border, right? So they're not just servicing a domestic use case, they're going after the global opportunity. But then if we look at just holistically businesses in Australia, only 2% of businesses sell cross-border. So we have basically a 10x multiple on what is the average in Australia for Stripe users going abroad. And I think a part of that could be that a lot of the businesses that use us tend to be quite digitally centric, and to go global as a digital business is inherently easier than maybe a traditional business. And so we've got that affinity as well. But when I think those three things have led to Australia just being a breakout region for Stripe. Like it's actually the third biggest market in the world for Stripe.
Wow.
So it definitely points out that like Australia as a business population is punching way above its weight with respect to tech adoption, but also, fintech evolution.
Yeah. As a country of 27 million people, I think, we've got 2.5 million small businesses and business owners. You've got nearly half of that.
It depends on how you measure it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I think is quite awesome is that many of our customers are solopreneurs.
Yeah.
They could be starting up a side hustle. So they don't necessarily need to be what is the classic small business. I think actually the small business numbers can be an underbaked version of actually how much commerce is happening with respect to some of these solopreneurs. But the other thing that's really interesting about business at the moment that we're seeing is just the net explosion of new businesses that are being formed right now. We're seeing it in the data at the moment, primarily fueled by the AI economy, is that businesses are just getting vibe coded now, right? And so we did a demo in the keynote where one of my architects basically spoke to Claude with an idea, which was, hey, I want to create like a cooking recipe kind of website, and I want to be able to monetize that. And within about a minute, it had spun up a website. It had organized the way to do some sort of large language model, natural language interaction for search, and allowed the acceptance of payments for that business to monetize. In the past, that'd be impossible, right? And so the AI economy now is accelerating business growth. So if anything, what we're going to see is more small businesses being formed than ever before. And then, a lot of those are going to be micro businesses, and many of them are choosing Stripe, either as humans choosing Stripe or agents choosing Stripe in the formation of the business, which is a super interesting time.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment, but I want to talk on that point a little bit more around AI and job creation. We just came from the keynote fireside chat with Cliff and John. And I think, John had asked a few times around this kind of stigma that comes with AI around it taking jobs. Now, if I look at my network and I think of the founders that I've, 10 years back when I started my business, Nick at Afterpay, Larry at Zip, when they said they were going to build a unicorn business and they'd have like thousands of people, I believed them. Now I speak to people like that and they're saying, I think I can build the same thing, if not better, with about 200 people. One of the things that I love about what you've said is that, this question that we've got about, well, what jobs will AI create? Maybe it's the wrong question. And it's what business will AI enable me to create where I don't need somebody to employ me? And I think that's one of the things that's really struck me about the event here is, it's almost like this is the birth of the digital age, and what we've seen has just been analog, kind of on a computer up to this point. How do you feel about the future at Stripe? And talk to me more about that agentic commerce piece.
Yeah, just going back to this analog to digital moment.
Yeah.
Like I had this tongue-in-cheek comment in the keynote talking about that we're now day 231 of the singularity. And the singularity represents the moment in time where AI enables just rapid business creation, innovation at a speed that is just unknown prior, right? And so like we're at the beginning of something that is just exponential, right? And we're seeing that in the numbers, right? Now, it's really, really hard to predict when things start, but when graphs that normally go up like this start inflecting in a really outsized way, something's happening.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think like from a perspective of the analog to digital kind of analogy, like I think we're going now digital to AI is like the next moment where it's just, we're all going to remember this.
Yeah.
Like there's this, do you remember that time when everything started exploding and there was this talk track around, oh my God, the bots are coming for everyone's jobs. And I think what we're going to find is actually there is a huge amount of businesses going to be created. There's loads of work to do, and many of the things that agents are doing are highly constrained.
Yeah.
And so, like, we've never been able to get enough software developers to be able to build all the things that we want to build. Like, we have an endless list of things that we need to build at Stripe. Agents might help us be more efficient at building, but we're never going to run out of things to build. And we still need software developers. Yeah. And so I think actually we're going to find that this spins the flywheel just faster.
Yeah. We're at the beginning. If we, this was the gold rush, it strikes me that Stripe's building the rails. They've got the picks and the shovels.
It's funny. It's funny. One of our founders, Patrick Collison, he kind of shares a funny analogy, which is like when and normally more of a teenage boy kind of analogy, which is like growing up in your bedroom, you might have pictures of Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Porsches on your wall. It would be very rare to have a picture of a highway.
Yeah.
And worship the highway and go, how cool is the highway? But at Stripe, we're building the highways that the fastest businesses can drive on, right? And so we are the digital version of that. And we obsess over building the best highways so these businesses can run as fast as they can. So like less picks and shovels, but more still kind of an infrastructure play, which is roads and freeways and highways so that businesses can just run faster and drive faster.
So we're at this inflection point where, speaking of, just bumping into old friends and colleagues of the industry, whether they're in crypto, blockchain, payments, it seems like we're at this inflection point now where everybody's congregating, and it feels like fintech now has become this kind of one homogenous collective rather than, we've had RegTech and we've had InsurTech and all these other things. How does Stripe see that whole ecosystem? Because if I look at the news and some of the plays that you've made around acquisitions, stable coins, so obviously the PayPal move is in the news as well. How does Stripe see their role in the whole kind of fintech ecosystem, and what is the part that they're playing?
I mean, like it started with. So firstly, our mission is to grow the GDP of the internet, right? And so ultimately it should be, how do we accelerate money movement and create revenue opportunities for businesses, right? So because actually speeding up the movement of money also increases the GDP of the internet. Because any time that a dollar is stranded between point A and point B, that dollar can't be spent, can't be used in the economy. And so the more that we can make it more agile, make it faster, make it more useful, increases the GDP of the internet as well. But a lot of this is working back from what our customers are telling us, right? Yeah. We started with simple payment acceptance on the internet because, our founders actually had started a business prior and found that one of the hardest things to do was to just get paid by their customers on the internet. And so then when they exited that business, they're like, well, hang on a second. Maybe lots of founders have got this problem. Let's build for where the problem is, and then continually evolved past that to say, well, okay, maybe it's not just payments. Maybe there's the management and movement of money. Maybe there's stored value. Maybe there's the issuing of credit cards. Like all these things that are still linked to the finance department, still linked to revenue, but have gone way beyond payments. And we're going to continue doing that, right? Where our customers tell us that there is a need or utility for us to extend into a certain space that probably is not being served well, well, then we can go in there and start doing a better job than maybe what the traditional incumbents are doing.
It's a great lesson there that you've shared, that, you know, rather than chasing what's the latest, because we have so many of them in this industry, you know, AI, stable coins, crypto, this, and, you know, we've seen businesses who've gone and chased after that kind of investor money rather than that North Star of what is our mission. This is going to sound like a really kind of banal question given everything that you've shared with me, but what is it that attracted you to Stripe when you joined?
You haven't figured that out yet.
That's why. That's why I said it's a banal question.
Yeah, but to be fair, like, so, you know, I probably, you know, I didn't know as much about Stripe before I joined than what I have now, right? And I've been at Stripe now I'm in my 5th year at Stripe, and just loving every minute. But like, historically, the businesses that I work for have been businesses that have some sort of scaled tech proposition. I did 10 years at AWS and really, really enjoyed the broadness of the platform, which was startup through to enterprise, very similar to Stripe's proposition. I really, really loved that it was a disruptive technology at the time when I was at AWS, because it was going in and trying to offer a different commercial model and technology to traditional physical servers and data centers. Now you can buy flexible access to infrastructure. And so then when I started looking and so after 10 years, I started looking at, well, what is the next move I want to make? And when I saw what Stripe was doing, they had some of those similarities that I really, really enjoyed. I love the broadness of the ability to, you know, in 1 hour I can go and speak to a founder, and the next one I could be speaking to a large enterprise. And that diversity of engagement and ubiquity of value, I think, is really unique. There's not many companies that really democratize access to services like that. And so that definitely drew me in. But then the mission, the values, very purpose-driven company, and then just the fixation on creating beautiful products, obsessing over that. It's not about releasing minimum viable products, getting them out to market as fast as possible and working out how to crank the wheel. It's like, no, let's release the products that customers are not only asking for, that they're going to enjoy, that they you know, that solve a problem in a beautiful way. And us obsessing about that, I think it drives a degree of high quality, you know, a degree of ownership in the sector. Like it's really unique. And so, you know, the chance to work for a company like that with a big vision, with beautiful products that has like ubiquitous access, it's, you know, it feels like it's a once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talked a little earlier, but, you know, yes, we've been in market here 12 years in Australia, and that's not a long time, right? But you could suggest, well, we have over 1 million users. And so, you know, how late are we in that journey? And based on what we're building now and the fact that we're releasing more and more products and we're solving more and more problems, like sometimes it feels like we're only at step one of, I think, a very, very long journey of possible value creation. So like that also is energizing to think that, hey, like I'm still part of kind of like the founding team. Yeah. There's so much more to do. And that's really fun.
As somebody who in my day job hires, you know, quite a lot of country manager roles for international fintechs, I've seen a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't work. What have you found have been the secrets to success and getting the results that you have? Because, you know, I look at the country manager role and I think it's probably the hardest, here in Oz, I think it's probably the hardest job you could have in fintech. You're often left isolated by yourself 7 different time zones. You know, you feel like you're on a 24/7 roster of doing meetings. What have been your secrets to success?
Well, those things are there.
Yeah.
But I think that also, you know, you need to choose the mindset for which you enter the business and how you operate the business. You know, one of the things I think at Stripe is that, you know, from one of our operating principles where, you know, we focus a lot on our customers, right? And putting the customer at the center of everything we do. And when we, you know, when we talk about, well, what are we building? What are we trying to achieve here in the market? You know, one of the coaching things that I spend a lot of time with the team is, what is the impact to the customer? Why is this important to them? Let's work backwards from the challenge that they're trying to solve. And then let's work out whether or not we can apply our technology to help that outcome. Because if we continually be that partner that is focused on solving our customers' problems, not ours, not our growth projections, not moving a certain product, the rest sort of figures itself out, right? It also, anchors us in the culture of being a user-focused company. And so, yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that we try to do. It also gives us a different type of energy where you can go around the office and ask, what are you focused on, or what have you achieved today, or what have you achieved this week? And when the answer is that I helped customer XYZ achieve this, or we've just launched customer XYZ into another country, their answer is not anchored in what's good for us. The answer is anchored in what's good for the customer.
Yeah.
And, what's good for the customer ends up being good for us too, right? Because at the end of the day, we share in that growth profile. So I think that's one of the things that I try to make sure that I anchor on myself, that I coach the team on, and then that kind of, in many ways, steers the decisions that we make.
Yeah. Now, we're coming to a wrap call. A lot of founders listen to this show. If they're interested in finding out more about Stripe as a solution for their business, a partnership, what's the best way for them to find out more?
We've got a team on the ground here in Sydney and Melbourne, also have a team in Auckland, New Zealand. And so, there's obviously opportunities to research online, but I'd say that the best thing would be to reach out to the team. We would love to understand their business, understand what their ambition is. Are they a startup that's looking to grow just domestically? Are they a startup that's trying to capture global market share? We've got lots of examples of how we've helped businesses like that. And we'd love to catch up and find out more and see if there is some sort of way that we can help.
Brilliant. And we get amazing talent listening to this podcast as well. If they're interested in careers at Stripe, where's the best place for them to head?
Stripe.com/jobs. You can filter by geography. We are actively hiring and plan to hire in a fairly material way next year as well, as we continue to grow our team here in both engineering and go-to-market roles. And so please do bookmark that. And if there's any particular role that interests you, you can ping the team and we can work out whether or not there's a great fit there for anyone or based on any role.
Well, Karl, thanks for joining me today. It's been awesome to have you on. What a debut as well. I mean, just think it's mind-blowing what Stripe are building. And I can't wait to get you back on and talk about, in the next 12 months, some of the developments that you've made.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome.
Cheers. Thank you.
As always, folks, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter. If you're new to the show, make sure you follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe. It really helps us get great guests like Karl and Stripe onto the show. Until the next episode, keep well